Sound of a 911 dispatcher's calm voice. 911, what is your emergency? Sound of a terrified, breathless man's voice. Background traffic noise. There is a lion on the highway. I am on I-70 West and there is a full-grown male lion just walking in the median. Sound of the line going silent for a beat. Sir, did you say a lion? What you just heard was the first tremor. The moment a small Ohio town's reality began to crack. Because in the next few hours, that single crack would shatter into an abyss of chaos, turning neighbors into prisoners and police officers into monster hunters. This is not a story about an accident. This is the true story of a calculated act where the weapons were not bombs or guns, but claws, teeth, and 500-pound killing machines. One man in his final desperate act decided to burn his world down. He just used his collection of 56 apex predators to light the match. I'm about to take you hour by hour through the longest night in Zanesville history. To ensure you're with us for every reopened case file, hit that subscribe button and lock it down. The hunt begins right now. To understand the massacre, you first have to understand the architect, Terry Thompson. Terry was a fixture in Muskingum County, a man carved from a different era. He was a Vietnam veteran, a pilot who had flown helicopters in the war, and a man who ran a business selling parts for classic American motorcycles. He was independent, stubborn, and deeply distrustful of authority. And he harbored a strange, consuming passion. He collected the world's most dangerous animals like other men collected stamps. His 73-acre farm was an island of misfit predators. The inventory alone is the stuff of nightmares. Let's be specific. 18 Bengal tigers, the largest big cat on earth. He had 18 of them, 17 African lions, 6 black bears, 2 massive grizzly bears, 3 mountain lions, 2 gray wolves, a baboon, and a handful of smaller primates. 56 wild animals in total, each one a perfectly evolved killing machine. He loved them with a possessive, dangerous affection. He fed them with roadkill deer and expired meat from Walmart that he'd haul home in the back of his pickup truck. But this was no sanctuary. It was a ticking time bomb. The enclosures were described by inspectors as deplorable. Chain-link fences, some barely 6 feet high, were all that separated a 600-pound grizzly bear from the outside world. Lions were kept in cages meant for large dogs. The local sheriff's office knew Terry Thompson well. They were regulars at his farm. They had received dozens upon dozens of calls over the years. Animal welfare concerns, noise complaints about lions roaring all night, sightings of bear cubs riding in the passenger seat of Terry's truck. But Ohio's exotic animal laws were a national joke. There were more regulations for owning a dog than for owning a tiger. As long as Thompson had his federal exhibitor's permit, he was virtually untouchable. But the walls were closing in on Terry's strange kingdom. He was drowning in debt and facing federal tax liens. He had just come home after serving a year in federal prison for illegal firearms possession. While he was away, his wife Marion, his partner in all things, had finally had enough. The constant work, the danger, the isolation. She left him. For Terry Thompson, a man who saw betrayal in every corner, this was the final, unforgivable sin. Alone, broke, and facing the potential seizure of his beloved animals, he decided on a final scorched earth solution. On the cool, overcast afternoon of October 18, 2011, he penned a short, rambling note, blaming everyone but himself. Then he picked up a pair of bolt cutters and walked out into the crisp autumn air. This was not a moment of madness. It was a ceremony of destruction. He went to the first cage. A heavy padlock secured the door. With a single, powerful squeeze, he snapped it off. He moved to the next. And the next. The sound of snapping metal echoed across the farm, a countdown to chaos. He didn't just unlock them. He took the time to swing each cage door wide open, an invitation into a world they had only ever seen through bars. With his private army unleashed, he walked to the main gates of the farm and opened those too. Then, Terry Thompson committed his final act. He shot himself. His suicide wasn't an end. It was the trigger. He had just armed 56 living bombs and lit the fuse. As dusk bled across the sky, the predators, timid at first, began to venture out. Past the body of their owner, past the familiar fences, and out into the strange, quiet landscape of rural Ohio. The 911 call started as a trickle, then became a flood. A truck driver reporting tigers darting across the interstate. A woman calling in tears, saying a bear was on her neighbor's back porch, clawing at the door. A farmer reporting a pack of wolves harassing his cattle. At the Muskingum County Sheriff's Office, a sense of dawning horror set in. This wasn't a prank. This was real. Sheriff Matt Lutz, a career lawman, found himself in an unthinkable position. He was the chief of a small department, his deputies equipped for traffic stops and burglaries, not for facing down a pride of lions. The sun was disappearing. Darkness was the animal's ally and his mortal enemy. School buses were still on their routes. People were driving home from work. Children were playing in their yards. Every citizen in his county was now potential prey. He made a call to the nearby Columbus Zoo. Their elite tranquilizer team was on its way. But they were more than an hour out. An hour was an eternity he didn't have. A tranquilizer dart isn't a magic bullet. It can take 5, 10, even 15 minutes to fully sedate a terrified, adrenaline-filled Bengal tiger. In that time, the animal could kill. It could vanish into the darkness. It could wander onto the highway and cause a multi-car pileup. There was no time for hesitation. There was no room for error. Standing in a roadside ditch, surrounded by his deputies, Sheriff Lutz made the hardest decision of his life. The order crackled over the radio, a death sentence born of absolute necessity. "We are not leaving this roadway. You have permission to shoot to kill." The night that followed was a descent into a primal war zone. Imagine being one of those deputies. You're walking through a dark cornfield, your patrol rifle feeling like a child's toy, your flashlight beam cutting a tiny hole in the oppressive darkness. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves could be a 300-pound mountain lion getting ready to pounce. They found a group of 4 lions and a lioness gathered near an old barn. As the deputies approached, one of the males turned, lowered its head, and charged. The night erupted in a deafening volley of gunfire. They had to put down a tiger in the middle of I-70. Traffic was backed up for miles, the drivers watching in stunned silence as officers engaged a predator from a nightmare just feet from their cars. A deputy, his voice strained on the radio, reported a grizzly bear attacking a farmer's horses, tearing at them with savage force. They had to kill it while it stood over the screaming, mutilated livestock. For hours, this was the reality. A county-wide hunt in the pitch black, punctuated by the sounds of roars and rifle shots. The residents of Zanesville huddled inside their homes, listening to the terror unfold. The local news reporting a surreal, ever-growing body count. By dawn, an exhausted quiet had settled over the fields. The hunt was over. The final tally was a scene of unbelievable carnage. 49 of Terry Thompson's animals had been killed. Their beautiful, powerful bodies lay strewn across the landscape, a tragic monument to one man's hatred. 6 animals were captured, mostly primates, and a young bear that had thankfully not left their enclosures. 1 monkey was missing, presumed to have been killed and eaten by one of the big cats. In a stunning miracle, not a single human being had been physically harmed, but the psychological scars would last a lifetime. The deputies who had been forced to pull the triggers were haunted by what they had to do. The community's sense of safety was shattered forever. In the end, the Zanesville Massacre is a story with no heroes, only victims. The people of the town, terrorized and endangered by their neighbor. The law enforcement officers, forced to commit a brutal but necessary act to protect their community. And most tragically, the animals themselves. They were prisoners on death row who had never committed a crime. Terry Thompson didn't set his animals free. He just changed the shape of their cage to the size of a county. And then he orchestrated their public execution. This case forced a reckoning in America, leading to sweeping new laws against private ownership of exotic animals. But it leaves us with a terrifying question. How many other Terry Thompsons are out there, quietly building their own private arsenals, waiting for their world to fall apart? The evidence has been presented. Now I need your verdict in the comments. Was Sheriff Lutz's order justified, or was there another way? If this case file held you in its grip, show your support by hitting that like button, and make sure you are subscribed with the bell icon activated. The darkness has more stories to tell, and we will be here to drag them into the light.